What's up, everybody? I have this one clump of hair that's not doing what I want it to. And it's well, we'll say that it's fine, I guess. I don't know. What are you gonna do? Let me see who's waking up here. Let me see. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. YouTube's awake. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Rockfin, where you at? Rockfin's kicking in. Oh man, it was almost tied up. But either way, we're live. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. Good morning to all my West Coasters. I'm a West Coaster. It's morning. This is my morning show. I know you're thinking, Ron, it's 11. Yeah, it's my morning show. And good evening to everyone in the evening time zone and to everyone in the future, Australia, New Zealand. Fix climate change for the rest of us. Shout out to our friends over at Indie Left who helped make this show possible. Indie Left is a place to find all the content creators and streamers you know and love. They curate a list. They update it twice a day, and it has articles, videos, streams, you name it, they got it. And they curate it for you. A one-stop shop. To find out everything they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord, check out their link tree at independentleft.media. All right, speaking of platforms and opportunities, we got an exciting show today, and I have not one guest, but two guests. And this has to do with Right Brain, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are already familiar with. Right Brain, they made The Revolution Televised and the documentary Nightcrawlers. They also have a lot of other films and projects in the works. Well, they have a new platform that they're building. We're going to learn all about it. So I'm joined today by Kevin Ronka, and I'm also joined today by a journalist named Arub Said, who has written extensively about what it's like being Muslim in a post 9/11 world. With the anniversary of 9/11 coming up, we're going to dive into that today. So please welcome both of them to the show. What's up, y'all?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
So let's start with, Arub, let's actually start with your work. I really want to get into some, like what you do and what your work is all about, especially as it relates to 9/11. So unpack that for me. How did this begin for you? Was this right after 9/11 that you started writing, or how did all that come to be?
Yeah, I mean, so when 9/11 happened, I was young. I was like 8, and I didn't realize how much the world was changing for people like me. But I think as I grew older, there were so many things that were becoming normalized for Muslims, and it was stuff that we just didn't question anymore. You know, getting the second, third security checks at the airport, getting funny looks for dressing differently. These were all things that I just kind of grew up with, so I saw as normal. And then I think as I, progressed into my adult years, I thought, actually, that's probably not right. Like, we shouldn't have to deal with that. We shouldn't have to be treated as if we're any different to anybody else. And I started writing just generally about everything when I was like studying. So it started as a hobby and then it progressed. And, by chance, I just came across Kevin over Twitter. We started talking. We had a lot of things in common. And one idea that I had, and I really wanted to write about how 9/11 had affected the lives of ordinary people. And there were just so many people who I've had the fortune of meeting, literally just people in my hometown, literally, who have been wrongly imprisoned and detained in Guantanamo Bay. And
Wait, time out. Where's your hometown?
Birmingham in England.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for something like that to hit close to home, it really gets to you, I think. Because, when I heard stories about people being mislabeled and misjudged, that was bad enough. But then hearing about people literally within my vicinity who are like, yeah, they've been wrongly imprisoned, they've been sent to Guantanamo Bay for something they never did. That's the kind of stuff that makes you think, wow, this is insane. And I think I just met so many people who had so many incredible yet heartbreaking stories to share. But I felt not many people were willing to really listen. And, this is over the course of many, many years. I've just met so many people who had so much to share. And, I just felt like a really good opportunity to share all these stories would be this year with 20 years now passing of 9/11. So, yeah, that's basically how that came about.
Now, are all of your stories are they mostly England centric? Like is it coming from your experiences in Birmingham and other people you've talked to in those areas, or is some of it in the United States as well, or is it all over the world?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. So for this article in particular with 9/11, I met people from America who I've spoken to. I met people from England as well who I've spoken to. People who lived in the Middle East, then moved to America, then moved to the UK. Like all sorts of stories, all sorts of backgrounds. So yeah, it's been very. There's a very diverse experience there. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different stories.
So now this kind of bleeds into the other thing we really want to talk about today, which is Kevin, your newest project. So I'll pose this question to you, Kevin, and Arub, feel free to jump in as well. But so how did this meeting of the minds come to happen, and what's the project everybody needs to look out for?
Yeah, so even though my art collective's called Right Brain, we actually haven't done anything in the sphere of like publishing or any written works at this point. We're predominantly been filmmakers, but we're kind of multimedia artists. And so I really wanted to try it. We weren't sure if we wanted to do a book or what we were feeling, but I'm really influenced by a lot of, there used to be a really strong movement of underground and leftist like physical magazines. A lot of that's moved online, which is great, but I do think there's something about the physicality of print that I really enjoy and always have.
It's still a special thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know if I ever told you about this like off mic, because Kevin and I talk a lot, folks, which we'll mention this a little bit more later. But Kevin is actually the editor of my movie trailer for Left at Wall, so we actually talk and collaborate a lot. But a couple years back, my little cousin was visiting. I feel weird calling him my little cousin because he's in his 20s now. But he was visiting me while he was still in college, um, in California, and we stumbled upon a zine fest that they had.
Cool.
It was so cool. Like we just saw like a sandwich board poster for it. And he's kind of into that sort of stuff. Like he wrote for the satirical newspaper in college, and he's into punk rock music and stuff. So we were all excited, and we went to this scene fest, and you saw people of all ages, like people my age and his age, and then people older and even people younger who still love print scenes. A lot of them are digital too, but they still love doing those print runs.
Yeah, it's great. There was always something very handcrafted. I mean, if you even look at some of the zines and even the flyers like Ginsburg and even like the Merry Pranksters who had done the electric Kool-Aid acid test, I mean, it was all hand done, and it was really kind of beautiful. We managed to merge some of the new techniques of digital just because it's so time consuming to do what they used to do, but we're definitely influenced by a lot of that. For me, if I was going to approach printed work, I wanted to approach it like Right Brain has approached all our projects, where we try to use our platform, and you could say privilege. We went to an expensive art school. A lot of us are still paying for it, and some of us even regretting it. But we use that platform and that access that we have and try to give that to people who we think have a lot more interesting stories to tell than us. And whether we're behind the camera or, editing or publishing a magazine, that's kind of where a lot of our interest lies, which is why our second documentary, Nightcrawlers, I mean, the director literally was a homeless drug addict making a film about homeless drug addicts, because like we hadn't really seen that. We've always seen, whether it was Amazon or whoever, they'll put some guy in there or girl who will be the filmmaker who's not going to actually challenge power to any degree and let them kind of use statistics to tell people's story. I've told you this, I think, before, that we're about, in our documentary work and even in our now print work, it's not about turning humans into statistics to tell a story and package a story. In the other way, it's about turning statistics back into human beings, letting them tell their own stories. So, I know nothing about publishing a magazine. I mean, literally nothing, less than nothing. So I started talking to a lot of people around me who were journalists, and it seemed like they had a lot of the same frustrations that I had. These are like close friends with film and with Hollywood. It's like you have there's only a certain couple big companies that kind of control everything. I mean, you have left online media and, great things like the Gray Zone. But I'm saying if you want to write for one of the bigger magazines, it seems like you're not going to get to write exactly what you want. And you're not going to be able to, if you're getting a cover story, you're probably not challenging a whole lot of power. And I mean, in a lot of these magazines, most of them have all shifted center, NPR and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I started finding out that like some of the things that my journalist friend was telling me, because I was like, what are the needs of journalists? Because whenever I work with different artists, I want to understand like what's their needs and what makes them feel valuable. And he was saying, oh, they don't get paid up front a lot, and and then they maybe get half up front and this and that, and they don't oftentimes get to exactly pick what they want, and the editor will kind of snip it to nothing. And so I kind of reversed it, and I just put a tweet out saying, anybody, any writer, I'm looking for writers from all around the country, and we more or less let you write whatever you wanted, just DM me. And I got a lot of responses. I said I didn't want any BuzzFeed bullshit culture writers. I just personally I'm not into that. I think it's just, I think it's a lot of fluff. I was looking for people that really wanted to tell real stories, you know what I mean? And from a really interesting vantage point, and was inviting people from any country. And I was amazed, for not having a very big Twitter following, how many people reached out and wanted to write something on their own terms and through their own voice. So it was a guy from Zimbabwe. I was just jumping on Zoom with all these people, having really no idea what I was doing, and just hearing their stories about, being a journalist and what that's like. And I was and they were surprised by some of the things I was offering, but more so I would say, what were the stories that you were pitching that didn't get picked up? Can I see a list of those? Those are the stories I want to look at, more or less. And Arub was one of the first people I spoke to, and she had a list of 12 great stories. And if I was a very wealthy man, I would have paid for all of them. The 9/11 one seemed the most prevalent, so I just was like, I'm going to pay up front. A total leap of faith. I don't know her at all. We talked for an hour, but I could just feel I go completely off instinct with everything I do. So
Arub, let's get your perspective here. So what made you decide to reach out? What kind of made you connect with that call, and what made you decide to highlight the work that you did?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it was what I noticed with Kevin's tweet. So it was that tweet that he mentioned where he said, none of this BuzzFeed stuff. I want to see real stuff. I'm going to pay you guys up front. It was very matter of fact. It was very straight to the point, direct. And that's something that I think a lot of journalists and writers who are listening or watching, I'm sure they'll completely understand this, that a lot of the time there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of ambiguity when it comes to writers and getting paid. Unfortunately, there's this kind of idea that a lot of people, publishers, tend to think, well, you're writing for us, you're getting publicity, there we go, you don't need to get paid. And that's a very running horrible theme, actually, because it's still work. You still deserve to be paid for what you're doing. So yeah, it was literally, I don't even know how I came across your tweet, Kevin, because I don't even think we have any mutual followers or anything. Nope. It was literally the most by chance, randomest thing ever. Saw it, I thought, hey, cool, this seems all right. And then I think that's when he just gave me an inbox, and he just said, hey, so give me a few examples of stuff you've written. We had a quick chat over there, and then and then we progressed, had a phone call, realized that a lot of our values were aligning. We were very much about this whole idea of, let's challenge the status quo. Let's tell those stories that no one's listening to, or the stories that aren't being told because nobody wants them to be told. And I think when I was pitching that, I had a whole bunch of ideas, but in particular, it was the 9/11 one was something that I really, really wanted to do. I remember thinking about this years ago. I was like, wow, people need to hear these stories. And then I thought, you know what, it's been 20 years now, nearly. And it seems like a great time to be able to bring this up, because again, it's the stories nobody wants to hear, or the stories that people don't even want to acknowledge. 9/11 made victims of a lot of people, and people you wouldn't even expect. And I think that's something that people just don't really see, something that people don't accept even. So yeah, that's basically how it happened. We had a couple of ideas, pitched it, and then just from then I just started finding people, researching, talking to more people. I already had some ideas in my head about people I'd talk to, because I'd met so many people over the years who had some horrendous stories to tell. And yeah, that it just basically went from there, to be honest.
The stories really are traumatic, especially now coming from outside of, I'm not from the Muslim community, and I've always thought about it. What me and Arub agreed upon was yes, the people that died in the plane, and we've been talking about them for 20 years. We've been talking that story. People that died in the planes, people lived around there in New York, the firefighters, and those stories are heroic. But what we forget sometimes is, yes, I think it was 3,000 or however many people passed that day, but millions of Muslims from, not just in the U.S. also became a target for a very sort of a neo-fascist militarized police state. Because after the 9/11 Commission came out and civil liberties were stripped away, I mean, if you were living in New York at that time and were Muslim, I mean, that's terrifying. And that lasted for a very long time. And I felt like I knew on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, that's probably the last story we're going to hear. Or if we do, it's going to be sold to you in an easy to digest way, much like, Amazon may sell a documentary about it that'll be like they're selling a Coca-Cola or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I said, if you see a big article like that, it's not going to possibly be challenging any power because most all media is owned by some large conglomerate. And I thought that the vantage point that Arup had would be perfect for it. And then there was a lot of other people I was meeting with too. I thought, okay, this is definitely the cover story. I think it'd be a very in the spirit of what I want to do with Right Brain to put this out on 9/11, which is a bold day to put it out. And I think that, there was other people too. There was this guy, Andrew, I met. He's a great journalist from Zimbabwe. He wanted to write about some of the corruption that was happening there. I mean, I've never been to Zimbabwe. I just became fascinated by like how many people around the world can we kind of bring together on one project and create this sort of mosaic of human experience. And that was really what it was. And we had the name Gorilla. Even the artist who drew the covers from New Delhi. I mean, every aspect of this is really bringing a lot of people together that I don't think any of them ever met. And I think it's going to be really cool. We have a chemist from the Czech Republic writing about, psychedelics. It's pretty interesting. It's a nice plethora of content. I mean, really, it's a labor of love. That I'll be lucky to hopefully even can break even. But for me, if a project ever breaks even, I think that's a win. It exists in the world. It's been created. It hasn't, you're not losing anything. And I think for me, that's always my baseline. So what I actually did was went old school and sold ad space to help fund it, which is, you feel like a telemarketer, and it is a little embarrassing calling your friends saying like, hey, do you want to buy ad space? But bottom line is, I think Gorilla Magazine is going to be a really powerful physical piece of work. I think that it's going to kind of turn the page, and maybe more people realize that the internet is a wonderful tool. But as human beings, I think physicality is important. Just like I think it is great to be able to stream, but it's also great one day when COVID's gone to be able to go into a theater and experience art with others. And that kind of moves me into, if we could talk about Right Brain TV, I would be happy to share kind of that too a little bit.
Well, yeah, but first, so the zine comes out on September 11th. So it's coming out this Saturday. Now, where can people get that?
So there'll be digital copies that are going to be $4. Again, we're just doing the baseline amount to cover printing costs and paying the writers and things like that. And then Right Brain TV will also have the zine. So the thing with Right Brain TV is it's $4. So if you sign up for it, you get all the movies and everything that we have for the month, and you get the zine. So, it's going to be the same price, but you get a whole lot of other stuff.
So let's check out. This is just the first video here on your guys' Facebook, just to give people a taste of what Right Brain is all about, and then we'll get into specifically what's going on with RightBrainStudios.tv.
In the courts, the prosecutors, the judges, the probation officers, the parole officers, every institution that makes money off of black and brown bodies.
So that was kind of a summary of what y'all got going on. So what is going to happen with Right Brain TV? How is this going to be a new streaming experience? And what are some things people need to look forward to?
So one thing I would say is censorship has not always been the most friendly to Right Brain. I mean, in 2016, where I felt like there was still a lot of good left podcasts, but there wasn't maybe as many as there are now. We've definitely seen a rise in leftist media. And we made the revolution televised. We didn't really know how censorship was going to play out. We hadn't seen a lot of examples. They weren't cracking down as much on the left at that time. It got a lot worse. So coming from a filmmaker's perspective, I guess we thought it would probably be okay. But I mean, between being shadow banned, even with Jill Stein trying to share it out, we were shadow banned on Facebook, which, I mean, even with 3,500 followers at the time, and our reach went from it was 10 or 20,000 to 13 people, just from posting Julian Assange articles and putting the film out. So then moving into making Nightcrawlers a couple years later and saying, okay, we want to make something that's about a real issue that really affects people, the opioid crisis, the homeless, what was going on with Occupy Wall Street, which is when Nightcrawlers was actually filmed. And even then, going to the festivals, doing everything you're supposed to do, having an agent and having a lawyer, we had a lawyer, and we did, what our teachers tell us to do with the film. Even going to the same film festival that Amazon was at, we weren't sponsored by Coke like they were, but we played the same time slot, same opening weekend. And then they banned us, they wouldn't let us put the film on their platform, even though we'd won awards. And what we started to realize is the film world is tricky because YouTube is great for the content that YouTube has. It's amazing for, live streams, YouTube podcast shows, and, I go there to listen to music. There's a lot of functions for YouTube, but I wouldn't say it's curated specifically as an experience for filmmakers, people who make cinema and artists in that regard. And I think that is still a powerful tool and weapon to fight the establishment and higher forces. And what Hollywood's done more or less is kind of treated, put people like me in a position where there's really nowhere to go, because Hollywood kind of functions, in my opinion, kind of ironically, like what Chris Hedges says, like a corporate colonialism, in a sense. Like they put a lot of diverse people up, but there's no diverse thought, right? Like, so they'll put somebody up for a big project, which is wonderful, but that project is going to be incredibly safe, or they wouldn't have gotten that job in the first place. And so if you're making true work about things that are challenging power, you're not going to probably get a job. And if you made documentaries like that, they do a lot of background checks. You're probably not going to get any kind of job where you have any kind of power. So to be able to continue to make the work that we wanted to make, and to not have to basically kowtow to this sort of higher force of Hollywood, we decided to just create our own website off any algorithms and things like that. You just go on there. We don't have to really worry about censorship. And the idea is to not just uplift, the films that we've made, but other filmmakers and other artists from around the world who feel the same way, who feel like they've kind of just been put up against a wall where they can't really embrace the art industry that they're in, and there isn't really a place for their work to live. And so my mission statement with Right Brain TV is to create a safe space for art to be dangerous, because I believe art should be dangerous. I don't mean dangerous as in hateful and fascist and things like that, but it should be dangerous in that it's challenging power and challenging narratives. And film and cinema has always done that. It has always been closely aligned with leftist ideals and movements, going back to Jean-Luc Godard and all those guys. Even some of them, for better or worse, were like self-described Maoists. That was a very different world of how cinema used to be used as one of the many tools, like Ron's show, You Do Media.
There used to be a time in this country, like especially in the 20s and 30s, and then again to an extent in like the 60s, where you had like these fringe anti-capitalist theaters and these production houses that were just straight up anti-capitalist, that were making all this content. Like you think about something like The Cradle Will Rock and stuff like that, and then later like Dr. Strangelove, and that all has really been, I don't want to say it doesn't exist anymore, because it certainly does, but the quote industry has been very much homogenized, and I kind of hope that we're going to go back in the other direction, that we're going to be ripe for a kind of new cultural renaissance now, mostly because, the digital village is kind of changing everything, whether we like it or not. So I'm hoping that we kind of see another cultural renaissance in film and television. I don't know if we will or not, but I certainly hope so.
I mean, me too. It's crazy how much things have changed. You wouldn't believe that in the 70s and even early 80s, Germany's most famous filmmaker was like a far left anarchist. You know what I mean? Rainer Werner Fassbinder was he was a cokehead and he was a pretty violent guy in some ways, but he was also a super radical filmmaker that fought for the working class and had lived that kind of life growing up. And he was the most famous filmmaker and most renowned filmmaker in all of Germany. Now, there's no way a guy like that would ever be the face of cinema in any of these EU countries specifically. And that's what I mean, though. I mean, for filmmakers, there's not a lot of places for us to go. We either go to YouTube or we conform to whatever Hollywood's going to tell us and bend the knee. I mean, that's it. And I think even with YouTube, we're seeing an increase in censorship. The monetization's getting trickier. And also, they're just taking pages down now. So there's a fear with that. So I think for us, the only sensible thing was to just find an investor, build the website. But this is why I say a new streaming experience. It's not just the fact that we're going to have underground works, including podcasts. I recorded a podcast. You did an episode over COVID, when COVID-19 lockdown had really kicked in, called Smoke Break, where I had, did a conversation with 25 people over a smoke. Got some really interesting guests on there. But it won't just have a lot of work like that, but it's going to be the first streaming site that's actually going to have the ability to reverse it. So instead of just you're my consumer, you're my audience, which is in my opinion a one-way relationship, it actually has a submission section. So right now, Hollywood and the film industry has actually made it really difficult for indie filmmakers to create. Because if you do make a movie, you're going to spend about $2,000 just to submit to film festivals. That might get you 10 submissions, and there's no guarantee you're getting in. There's no guarantee they even watch it. There was a lawsuit with Sundance Film Festival where this guy paid $150 and was able to check the analytics and realize they didn't even watch the movie, and then they rejected him, and yet he lost.
Wow.
He actually lost to Sundance. They said we're not required to do anything. It's a racket.
Even though people pay for submission?
Yep, it's a racket. A lot of film festivals.
That's not right.
Yeah, a lot of film festivals are actually, they're actually run by filmmakers or wealthy people that are failed filmmakers. And what they'll do is they'll get a bunch of people to throw up $100 each, maybe 1,000 of them. They go off and make their movie. They'll pick like a handful, but they'll also they'll use the people who are like low, filmmakers like me. They'll use our money to go rent the bigger movies for the festival. You know what I'm saying? And take the rest, just put it in their pocket and go make a movie. And then people probably won't talk about this, but that's the truth. The film festival circuit is a racket. I say that as somebody who's gone to a decent, couple of decent film festivals and even sold one out. It is a racket. And I don't know if I'll ever submit to one again. I think it doesn't come from a place of rejection, but I've seen what they're doing to young filmmakers. You can go on Reddit and forums and see all these disgruntled filmmakers that just want to be heard, and gatekeepers won't even watch their work. There's been instances where, and this is another reason why we made the website, when I definitely shot the first film about COVID because I was in China the week it broke out, the first week, when it had 500 cases. And I wanted to create a film from the perspective of people in China, as far as just just a kind of a looking glass to show you that they're not actually that much different than us. In a way, they have different culture and things like that. But at the end of the day, our common humanity is the same. They care about their family. They want to see, their loved ones do well. They want to rise up as a society in the face of a pandemic. And I almost was surprised by how many parallels I saw. But when I was sending this film to festivals, as the first film shot, about this important issue, I would get emails from programmers. So a programmer's job at a film festival, for anybody watching as a filmmaker, they vote on, 1,000 movies get submitted. They have 10 people watch them and vote on them because it's a lot of movies to watch. So you have these different programmers. You hire film critics and people like that. I would get messages from programmers saying your COVID film, Yang Metal Rap, it went over real well. There was definitely some buzz. It's really a unique experience. But for some reason, we don't know why the guy's not going to show it. Whoever owns the festival doesn't want to show it. And in some cases, they would even try to recruit me and become an agent of the film, which is inappropriate. You can't have agents deciding what films get into festivals and what films don't when they represent films. That's what I'm saying. The whole thing is completely corrupt. And it's just a way to take money from filmmakers. So what I thought is, after my whole experience of going to film school, basically being blacklisted from the industry before I even got there, and whether it was Netflix with projects there, it's been impossible to get my work seen in some ways. What I decided to do was create something that I thought catered to people like me. So for $4 a month, you can submit as much stuff as you want to us, right? It's not per, if I go to a film festival, it's going to be $300 for 3 films. You can submit as much stuff. We're $36 a year. And if we like it, not only are we going to feature it on the site, and I'm saying nicely create a space for it to be appreciated, but in some cases we'll actually pay you for it. And I can't think of any website except maybe a Rockfin, but that's geared towards something I think a little bit different. This is really not a platform as much as just a website where the audience is a part of it. It's not a streaming site as much as a movement in some ways. And we're hoping, more people sign up and we can collectively create this thing. I mean, $4 is probably just enough to, in some ways, run the site, run the server, and the cost that went into creating something we can all use. But eventually, it's just going to generate something that's just very communal. And I think that fitting in line with all the work Right Brain's done, we want to create a website that will slowly be filled with other people's work and actually pay them for it, and create a space where, you can have your voice and you can say what you want to say, and you can have a space for audience members to really appreciate art the way I think it was meant to be appreciated. I think that YouTube is great for me to get information, and sometimes I've seen some artistic works on there for sure. I think I'm looking more in a cinema lens. I think we need to be attacking establishments of power from multiple arms in leftist media, protest everything. And I think that cinema should be one of those. And this is a site where I think, it's not to say every work will be political, but I think it's going to shatter stigmas, which is something we're big on, and challenge narratives and bring a lot of different voices together.
So where can people go to sign up?
It'll launch on Friday night at 10 o'clock if everything works. We had a major health scare with our web developer, and he actually nobody knows who he is. He got really sick. I mean, it was real bad, and it was real sudden, and so we weren't sure if we were even going to be able to reach our deadline, because I was thinking, like, man, I don't want to get rid of this guy. He's great, and he's really sick. Like, the last thing I want to do is, can him or something, but I do want the website to go on. And he was a badass and decided to stick with it all the way through. So shout out to him. But Friday, if all goes well, at 10 o'clock, it'll launch. But what people need to understand is you're not going to go on there and see like towers of content. That is not what this is. That's Netflix, and we're not trying to replace your Netflix subscription. It's something that you grow with, right? So maybe 3 or 4 things are going to drop a week. Always new. There'll be a program on there.
What is the URL?
rightbrainstudios.tv.
Okay, cool. So Arub, where can people go to find out more about you? Not just with Right Brain, but also just with everything else you got going on.
Yeah, you could follow me on Twitter. My handle is, oh God, I always forget this, not gonna lie. Oh God, what is it? Kevin, do you remember it? Let me check. Sorry.
I don't.
It's because I don't use Twitter as much, so I always forget what my handle is. Sorry, give me a second. It is _blue with 3 E's. So BLUEEE. And then my Instagram handle is also where I'm very active there. And that's _blue day. So yeah, if you want to keep up to date with the stuff I'm doing, yeah, you should follow me on those. And yeah, that would be great.
All right.
We're Right Brain TV on Instagram. Ron, if I could just say one last thing briefly. I just feel like if anyone's watching this who is an artist who feels like in any way that they've been silenced or having trouble being heard, that's who we want. We want you. Just the same way we asked Arub for the stories that were not being shown. We welcome you with open arms, and we hope you become a part of our movement. And we didn't get into it as much, but Arub, her article is fantastic, and she got to talk to someone in Guantanamo Bay, someone that was accused of being a suicide bomber and had their innocent person had their whole life upended. People just who had to walk through Walmart after. I mean, it's a really phenomenal. So I just want to make sure I touch on that.
Well, and just to clarify, so Arub's article will be part of the launch on Friday night. If someone goes to rightbrainstudios.tv and they sign up, they're going to see Arub's article with the digital zine, correct?
So the website will launch Friday night, and then on September 11th, which will be Saturday, it'll be in there. When you wake up, it'll be in there, and she'll be the cover story. So.
Okay. Great. And is there any, before we sign off here, Arub, is there anything you want to tease that's going to be in this? I mean, I know you're talking to people all over the world. Are there any specifics that you want to tease people with before Saturday?
Okay. I mean, I'd say the probably the most shocking story was the guy who I spoke to from Guantanamo Bay, who was also coincidentally from my hometown. That was probably because, meeting him and speaking to him in person was honestly a whole new experience. I'd say I don't want to give too much away, but there's a lot of experiences in there from people of a lot of different walks of life. But the one thing that kind of brings them all together is the fact that they've all shared like some horrible experiences post 9/11. And, after discussing with Kevin as well, rather than having it just, journalism straight up, I'm going to talk to these people, I combine my own experiences in this as well. And I've kind of spoken about my own journey, about how why I decided to write this article, about why I felt this was necessary, about the experiences I had growing up, the kids who teased me and told me that 9/11 was my fault or my dad's fault or my family's fault. The amount of times I'd be double, triple checked at airport security and just getting randomly checked, getting my entire suitcase, everything looked into, having my sister's phone, every single photo looked into, things like that, which at the time I just thought, this is weird, but okay, cool. I guess this is how Americans do it. And then in hindsight, just thinking, wow, like these were all incidents that happened that weren't isolated. Every time we travel to the US, it's pretty much the same thing. And, I love the US. There's a reason I love going there. But yeah, the security is on a whole new level. So yeah, I think what sets this article apart from everything else that I've ever written is the fact that I've combined my own experience. It's not just a third person perspective. it's me. It's about how I grew up and why I felt it was so important to tell this story, as well as all these other amazing people who I had the fortune of interviewing. So yeah, that being said, I don't want to give too much away. So I just hope you guys, whoever's listening, to just check it out. And to share it if you can. It was very, very thought-provoking to write and to research. So yeah, it was really a pleasure to do it. So yeah, thank you as well to Kevin for providing me with that platform.
No, of course. And I want to say thanks to Gabriella Paluja, Mark Rubendahl, the guy who's editing. I mean, these people are working tirelessly for very little money to bring it together. And some people wrote articles for free. So just everybody, Kirke from Kazakhstan. And, it's just been a really interesting how many people have stepped up. And I appreciate everybody. I mean, this zine alone, we've worked with 14 different people. And, in the last couple of years, I think Right Brain's probably worked with like 40 to 40 plus artists from around the world. So it's been really exciting. And that's the part of it that really turns me on. And I think that, mentally, and I think in a way that I hope to just more people come together. That's what I'm all about.
So for everybody who may have tuned in late, for anyone just tuning in, to summarize here, rightbrainstudios.tv, you can go there. You can sign up. The website officially launches on Friday. And the webzine, which is going to be available digitally and physically, is going to launch on Saturday. It's going to feature Aroob's story, which is a collection of what it's like being a Muslim in a post 9/11 world, and its stories and perspectives from all over the world. That's going to be there on Saturday. And you can go to rightbrainstudios.tv to sign up. You can submit your work, and they're going to focus on a lot of film and writing and underground art that is very much underrepresented. Kevin, Aroob, thank you guys so much for being here and sharing this with everyone. And I can't wait to see the story. I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Be well. All right. There you have it. Huh? That's interesting and very timely. So before we get out of here, let me do another thing that I got to do. I got to thank, which, by the way, Kevin is the editor for Left at Wall. He edited the trailer for my film Left at Wall, which I got some funders to thank. So let's go ahead and do that. We got 2 privates. So thank you very much. If you listed as private, I won't say your name on the air because I'm thinking you don't want me to. But thank you, private donor, and thank you, private donor. Thank you very much for that. Steve Wolfbrandt, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. And Jen Vickers, thank you very much for your contribution to Left at Wall. For anyone who hasn't seen the trailer yet, please do check it out. I'll drop the link in the chats here. And I'll also... And, I'm going to have Kevin back on to kind of talk specifically about the movie itself, and we'll do a little more chat about that at a future time. But check out the trailer. And for those of you listening to the podcast later, you can check out the trailer on my YouTube channel. You can check it out on my Twitter. It is my pinned tweet. Or you can just go right to GoFundMe, type in Left at Wall, and it's the first thing that comes up. There's a lot of perks if you contribute. You can get, first of all, you get a shout out thank you on this show. You can get your name in the credits. You can have a virtual screening with the cast once it's done, complete with the Q&A. So there's all kinds of fun perks. You get behind the scenes footage as we're making the movie. A lot of fun stuff. So check it out. If you're able to contribute, that's fantastic. If you're not, that's totally fine too. I know there's a lot of great causes out there. If this film can be one of them, great. If it can't be, totally understand, no problem. Watch the trailer anyway. Let me know what you think. I hope you like it. Share it with your friends. Tell people about it. Yeah, there you go. So special thanks again to Aroob and Kevin for sharing this new project. And I'm glad we got to do an episode about it today, especially given the time of it. And thank you to all of you for tuning in today. So Monday... quick announcement about Monday before we sign off here. First of all, tour dates, don't have many of them because the Delta variant is still going. So we canceled our October tour, which, yes, my heart freaking hurts a lot. But we're still doing some regional shows in California. So September 11th, which is just Saturday, also the same day that Kevin Zine launches. But September 11th will be in San Francisco. That's Graham Elwood and myself. September 12th will be in Sacramento, and September 15th will be in Los Angeles. You can get all those tickets at ronplacone.com. Please don't wait. Grab your tickets, ronplacone.com, San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles. And those will probably be all the bigger live shows for a while. Not really booking much until things get a little more under control with this pandemic. So we don't have many opportunities, so let's make them count. That's what I say. So San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles. Can't wait to see you again. ronplacone.com for all those tickets. And also, I got to announce that Monday, so our Sacramento show's on Sunday. So Monday would normally be MMT Monday, second Monday of the month. That's when I do the MMT Monday with Jeff Epstein. Not the bad Jeff Epstein. He's a good guy. He should probably add a middle name to his thing. But anyway, we're not doing that on Monday because I'll be traveling. So we're going to do it the following Monday. So there'll be no regular stream on Monday because I'll be traveling. And the following Monday will be MMT Monday. It'll be the third Monday of the month this time instead of the second. But yeah, so that's the announcement there. And that show streams at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's a little bit different from our regular stream. So yeah, that's going to be a different Monday. And I'll, of course, be tweeting that. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Make sure you like the Facebook page and blah, blah, blah. Because, of course, I'll be making all those announcements on all the social media platforms. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. None of this would be possible without you. And you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. Special thanks again to Private. And it's the same Private, by the way. Thank you very much for both of your very generous contributions. And thank you, Jen Vickers. And thank you, Steve Wolfbrandt. And again, if you want to make a contribution, you can just go right to GoFundMe, type in Left at Wall, and my movie comes right up. We're going to be breaking ground soon, and I am so excited. But if you are interested and able, we do need your help to help make this a reality. Thank you guys so much for being part of this. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. And I say peace. Peace.